What if everything you believed about the afterlife was just a glimpse of something far greater? Imagine dying, your heart stops, your breath fades, and suddenly, you're not afraid. You're awake, but not here. You're standing in the presence of something so radiant, so overwhelming, that words fail. This isn't just another story. This is a real account from someone who crossed the veil and came back with a message that could change your life forever. What they saw, what they felt, and what they were told will shake your soul, awaken your spirit, and renew your faith. My name is Sarah, and 3 years ago, I died. For 7 minutes, the monitors showed flatline. The doctors worked frantically to bring me back, but I wasn't gonna. I was more alive than I'd ever been. I was home. I was gone for minutes, but it felt like eternity in heaven. The accident happened on a Tuesday morning. 1 minute I was driving to work, thinking about my mundane problems, bill, deadlines, the argument I'd had with my husband the night before. The next minute, I was staring up at twisted metal and feeling my life slip away, like water through my fingers. But here's what no one tells you about dying. The moment isn't scary. There was no tunnel of light like you see in the movies. Instead, there was this ... release, like taking off shoes that had been too tight your entire life. The pain vanished, the fear dissolved, and suddenly, I wasn't looking up at wreckage anymore. I was standing. Time, if you can even call it. That worked differently there. 7 minutes on Earth felt like years in that place. I had conversations that seemed to last hours. I experienced emotions so profound they would have taken lifetimes to process here. Yet somehow, it all fit into those precious minutes when my body lay still on that hospital table. The first thing I noticed wasn't what I saw, but what I felt. Pure, undiluted love washing over me like warm sunlight. Not the conditional love. We know here love that depends on what you do, how you look, what you achieve. This was love that knew me completely. Every flaw, every failure, every secret shame, ... and loved me anyway. Loved me more because of it. I looked around and realized I was in a place that defied every earthly comparison. Imagine the most beautiful place you've ever seen, maybe a sunset over the ocean, or mountains reflected in a crystal lake. Now multiply that beauty by infinity, and you're still not close. Colors existed there that don't have names. Light that didn't just illuminate, but actually communicated warmth, peace, and joy directly to your soul. The music, the light, the presence I never wanted to leave. The music started softly at first. I thought it was coming from somewhere specific, but then I realized it was coming from everywhere, and everyone. It wasn't just heard. It was felt in every fiber of my being. Imagine every beautiful song you've ever heard. Every melody that ever moved you to tears. Every harmony that gave you chills. Now imagine them all woven together into one perfect symphony. But it wasn't just music. It was worship in its purest form. Creation itself, singing back to its creator. I found myself joining in, though I don't remember deciding to. My voice blended with countless others, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't self-conscious about how I sounded. Here every voice was perfect, because it was authentic. The light was unlike anything earthly. Our sun, as magnificent as it is, would seem like a dying candle compared to the radiance that filled this place. Yet it wasn't harsh or blinding. It was welcoming, like coming home to a warm house on a winter night. The light seemed alive, intelligent, full of personality and love. I realized that this light wasn't just illuminating the place, it was the place. Everything beautiful I was experiencing was emanating from this source. The peace that filled me, the joy that bubbled up from depths I didn't know I had, the overwhelming sense of belonging, it all flowed from this magnificent presence. And then I understood. I was in the presence of God Himself. The weight of that realization should have crushed me. I, with all my failures and petty concerns, standing before the Creator of the universe. But instead of feeling small or unworthy, I felt celebrated, like I was the guest of honor at a party I didn't even know was being thrown for me. Time moved strangely there. I could have stayed in that first moment of recognition for eternity and been completely content. The presence was so fulfilling, so complete, that every earthly desire simply evaporated. I understood why the angels never tire of worship. How could you want anything else when you're experiencing perfect love? I saw people I had lost, and they spoke to me as I stood there, overwhelmed by the beauty and presence around me. I heard a familiar voice call my name. I turned, and there was my grandmother, Rose, who had passed away when I was 15. But this wasn't the frail, sick woman I remembered from her final days. This was Grandma Rose, as she truly was vibrant, joyful, radiant with life. "Sarah, my darling girl," she said, and her voice carried the warmth of 1,000 hugs. "I've been waiting for you." "Waiting? For me?" I asked, confused. "But Grandma, I'm not. I can't be." She laughed, and the sound was like silver bells in a gentle breeze. "Oh, sweetheart, you're not staying. Not yet, but he wanted you to see this, to understand." Behind her, I saw others. My grandfather, who I'd never met because he died before I was born, stood tall and proud, wearing that smile my mother always told me about. My Uncle Mike, who'd struggled with addiction his whole life, looked clean and whole and free. And there, my heart nearly broke with joy, was my little brother David, who'd been stillborn when I was 8. David looked exactly as I'd always imagined he would if he'd lived to grow up. Strong, kind eyes, with that mischievous grin that ran in our family. "Big sister," he said. And even though we'd never spoken on earth, I knew his voice like my own heartbeat. "David," I whispered, tears streaming down my face, though even my tears felt different there, pure and healing. "I've missed you my whole life." "I know," he said, taking my hand. "But I've been here, watching over you. Every scraped knee, every broken heart, every moment you felt alone, I was there. We all were." Grandma Rose nodded. "The veil between here and there is much thinner than people think. We're never really gone from those we love. Love is the bridge that connects all worlds." They told me about their experiences there, about the learning and growing that continues, about the assignments they'd been given to help others transition when their time came. Uncle Mike had become a guide for those who'd struggled with addiction, helping them find the healing they'd searched for their whole lives. Grandma Rose worked with children who arrived before their time, showing them the love they'd missed on earth. "But you," David said, his eyes twinkling, "you have work to finish down there. Important work. That's why you're here now, to see, to understand, so you can go back and tell them." "Tell them what?" I asked. "That death is not the end," Grandma Rose said firmly. "That love is stronger than death. That every moment of suffering on earth is temporary, but the joy here, this is forever." He spoke my name. I knew it was Jesus, as my family members stepped back, still smiling, still radiating that incredible peace. The light around me seemed to intensify. I felt rather than saw someone approaching. And every cell in my being, if I even had cells there, vibrated with recognition. When I turned, I saw him. Jesus, not the pale, serene figure from Sunday school paintings, but a man so vibrantly alive, so powerfully loving, that I fell to my knees without thinking. His eyes held the depths of eternity, yet they looked at me as if I were the only person who had ever existed. His face bore the marks of suffering, but they were transformed into badges of victory, proof of love that conquered death itself. "Sarah," he said, and my name on his lips sounded like the first word ever spoken, like music, like coming home. "My beloved daughter." I tried to speak, to tell him how sorry I was for all the times I'd failed, all the times I'd doubted, all the ways I'd fallen short. But he placed his hand on my shoulder, and peace flooded through me so completely that words became unnecessary. I No, he said simply. I've always known, and I've loved you through it all. He helped me to my feet, and I found myself looking directly into his eyes. There was no condemnation there, no disappointment, only love so pure and complete that it redefined the word for me forever. You want to know if you're good enough, he said, reading my heart like an open book. You want to know if you've done enough, been enough, believed enough. Oh, my dear one, it was never about what you did. It was always about what I did, for you, because of you. He showed me his hands, and I saw the scars, not ugly wounds, but beautiful reminders of the price he'd paid. Every scar tells a story of love, he said. Your story, the story of every soul I died to save. We walked together through that incredible place, and he showed me things that my earthly mind struggled to process. Gardens where every flower sang worship, rivers of what looked like liquid light, flowing with the very essence of life itself. Mountains that seemed to stretch into infinity, each peak revealing new wonders. But the most amazing thing wasn't what he showed MIT, was how he was with me. This was Jesus, the Son of God, the creator of the universe, and he was walking with me like I was his dearest friend. He laughed at my amazement, answered my questions with infinite patience, and shared stories about people I'd known on Earth. Mrs. Johnson, your third-grade teacher, he said, smiling. She prayed for every student she ever taught. Her prayers for you are still being answered. The homeless man you gave coffee to last winter, he continued. His name is Robert, and that small act of kindness was the first step in his journey home to me. I realized that he knew everything, every secret act of kindness, every moment of genuine love, every time I'd chosen to help instead of harm. Nothing was forgotten, nothing was wasted. What heaven showed me about earth broke my heart as we continued walking. Jesus led me to what looked like a viewing area, though viewing doesn't really capture what I experienced. It was more like having my consciousness expanded to see earth from heaven's perspective. What I saw broke my heart. I watched people rushing through their days, stressed about things that wouldn't matter in eternity. I saw families torn apart by grudges over inheritance money that would rust and decay. I watched individuals consumed by jealousy, hatred, and bitterness, poisoning their own souls, while the objects of their anger lived in peace. But what hurt most was seeing people I loved still trapped in the very struggles I'd been freed from. My husband, sitting alone in our house, believing that somehow our last argument mattered more than 20 years of love. My sister, still carrying guilt over harsh words she'd spoken to our mother before she died, words that Mom had forgiven and forgotten long ago. They don't understand, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. No, Jesus said gently, they don't. That's why I must return to tell them. He showed me more. I saw the ripple effects of small acts of kindness spreading across generations. A teacher's encouragement that led a child to become a doctor who would save thousands of lives. A stranger's smile that pulled someone back from the brink of suicide, who then went on to love and be loved and create a family. I saw the prayers of mothers rising like incense, creating protective barriers around their children that the children never even knew existed. I watched angels, real powerful, magnificent beings responding to prayers, fighting battles in the spiritual realm that affected the physical world in ways that would never make the news. But I also saw the enemy's work, not the cartoonish devil of popular imagination, but a real, malevolent force working to steal, kill, and destroy. I saw how depression wasn't just a chemical imbalance, but often a spiritual attack. How addiction wasn't just weakness, but chains that could only be broken by divine intervention. How broken relationships weren't just personality conflicts, but assaults on the very foundation of love that holds the universe together. Why don't you just fix it all? I asked, my heart breaking for the suffering I witnessed. Jesus looked at me with eyes full of compassion. Because love cannot be forced, Sarah. Every soul must choose. I died to give them the choice, but I cannot make the choice for them. That would not be love, that would be slavery. He showed me how every prayer mattered, how every act of love made a difference, how every person who chose faith over fear, love over hate, hope over despair, was striking a blow against darkness. This is why you must go back, he said, to tell them that their choices matter, that their prayers are heard, that they are not alone in the fight. He sent me back, but not without a mission. As we stood there, heaven's perspective on earth still fresh in my mind, I felt a shift in the atmosphere. The eternal quality of the place remained, but I sensed that my visit was reaching its conclusion. It's time, Jesus said gently. My heart clenched. I don't want to leave this place, this peace, this love. How can I go back to a world full of pain and suffering and death? He smiled, and his smile held the promise of reunion. Because you're not really leaving, Sarah. Part of you will always remain here now, and part of this place will go back with you. He placed his hands on my shoulders, and I felt something change within me. It was as if he was downloading something directly into my spirit, not just memories of what I'd experienced, but the very essence of it. The peace, the love, the absolute certainty of his presence and care. You have a mission now, he said. You must tell them what you've seen. You must remind them that this earthly life is just the prologue to their real story. You must help them understand that every day is a gift, every relationship is sacred, every moment of love is eternal. I nodded, though part of me still rebelled against leaving. But who will believe me? Who will listen? Those who need to hear it will hear it, he assured me. My sheep know my voice, Sarah. When you speak my words, they will recognize the truth in their hearts. He gave me specific messages for specific people. For my husband, tell him that our last conversation wasn't about the dishes in the sink or the bills on the counter. Tell him that I see every sacrifice he makes, every moment he chooses love over convenience, every time he puts his family first. Tell him I'm proud of the man he's become. For my sister, tell her that Mom's love didn't end with her last breath. Tell her that forgiveness isn't about deserving, it's about receiving it. Tell her that the guilt she carries isn't from me, it's from the enemy of her soul, and she can choose to put it down. For my coworkers, my neighbors, the barista at my coffee shop who always looked so sad, tell them they matter. Tell them their lives have purpose beyond their understanding. Tell them that love is always the answer. Always the way, always the choice that leads to life. As he spoke, I felt these messages burning into my heart like gentle fire. I knew I would remember every word, every inflection, every look in his eyes as he entrusted me with his love for others. And Sarah, he said, his voice taking on an even deeper tenderness, tell them about this place. Tell them that death is not the end but the beginning. Tell them that every tear shed in love, every prayer whispered in faith, every act of kindness offered in my name is an investment in eternity. I felt myself beginning to fade from that place, or perhaps it was fading from me. The light began to dim, not disappearing, but becoming less visible, as if a veil was being drawn between us. Will I remember? I asked desperately. You will remember, he promised. And when your real homecoming arrives, we'll continue the conversation right where we left off. The last thing I saw was his smile, full of love and promise, and the absolute certainty that this separation was only temporary. Why I'm no longer afraid of death, the return to my earthly body was jarring. One moment I was standing in perfect peace with Jesus, the next I was gasping, coughing, with the taste of medical equipment in my mouth and the harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital burning my eyes. She's back, someone shouted. We've got her back. But I wasn't fully back, not really. Part of me would forever remain in that place of perfect love, and part of that place had come back with me. The first few days were difficult. How do you explain to people that you've been to heaven and back? How do you describe colors that don't exist on earth, music that transcends sound, love that redefines the very concept? My husband thought I was hallucinating from the trauma. My doctor suggested counseling. Well-meaning friends nodded politely when I tried to share my experience, but I could see the skepticism in their eyes. But then something amazing happened. I started sharing Jesus' specific messages, and people began to respond. My husband broke down crying when I told him what Jesus had said about seeing his sacrifices and being proud of him. My sister called me at 3 in the morning, sobbing with relief, as she finally released the guilt she'd carried for years. The barista at my coffee shop, her name was Jennifer. I learned listened, with tears streaming down her face, as I told her that her life had purpose, that she mattered, that she was loved beyond measure. 2 weeks later, she told me she'd started going to church for the first time since childhood. That's when I realized the message wasn't just for me. It was for everyone who needed to hear it, and there were so many who needed to hear it. I began speaking at churches, sharing my story with anyone who would listen. Not because I wanted attention or recognition, but because Jesus had given me a job to do. Every time I spoke, I saw the same thing happen. People's faces would change, as hope replaced despair, as love replaced fear, as faith replaced doubt. The most profound change, though, was in my own heart. The fear of death that had haunted me my entire life was completely gone, not diminished, not managed gone, because death wasn't an ending anymore. It was a graduation, a homecoming, a reunion with the one who loved me most. I still grieve when I lose people I love, but it's different now. It's the temporary sadness of being separated from someone on a trip, not the devastating finality I used to feel. Because I know not believe, but know that this separation is temporary. I live differently now. The petty things that used to consume my energy seem trivial in light of eternity. The big things that used to overwhelm me seem manageable when I remember that God knows every detail of my life and loves me through all of it. I love more freely, forgive more quickly, and hope more boldly. Because I've seen where love leads, I've experienced where forgiveness takes us, and I know that hope is not wishful thinking. It's a guaranteed promise from someone who has never broken his word. Conclusion. The message that changes everything as I finish sharing this story with you. I want you to know that this message isn't just my experience, it's your invitation. Jesus didn't have me return just to tell a fascinating story. He sent me back to remind you of truths that your heart already knows but your mind has forgotten. You are loved beyond your comprehension by the one who created you. Every breath you take is a gift. Every day is an opportunity. Every relationship is sacred. The things you worry about, the fears that keep you awake at night, the regrets that weigh down your soul, none of these have the final word in your story. Love has the final word. Grace has the final word. Jesus has the final word. Death is not your enemy, it's your doorway home. The people you've lost are not gone, they're waiting. The prayers you've prayed are not forgotten, they're being answered in ways you cannot yet see. And you have a purpose here that reaches beyond your understanding. Every kind word you speak, every act of love you offer, every moment you choose faith over fear, you're participating in the very work of heaven itself. This isn't the end of your story. This is barely the beginning. And the best, oh, the very best is yet to come. So live like it, love like it, hope like it, because it's true, all of it. And someday, when your earthly journey is complete, you'll see for yourself. Until then, let the peace I experienced, the love I felt, the hope I received, fill your heart and guide your steps. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not without purpose. You are loved, and that love, that incredible, overwhelming, life-changing love is what waits for you beyond the veil. This testimony represents one person's near-death experience and their personal encounter with faith, hope, and divine love. Whether you believe every detail or simply find inspiration in the message of love and hope, the invitation remains the same: to live with purpose, love without reservation, and face the future, including death itself, without fear.